one nation, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, would you please take the roll?
Tony Arnett,
Here.
Mike Higgins.
Here.
Lori Holland,
Here.
Tina Johnson. Here. David Schrader.
Here.
David Smith.
Here.
Doug Will.
Here.
Craig Blood.
Here. All right, our first item of business is the election of a temporary chairperson for the purpose of doing our election for a board president. Do I hear a motion to appoint the superintendent as the temporary chairperson?
So moved.
Second. Moved by David, second by Mike. Comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
At this time, I will take nominations for president of the board. Do we have any nominations?
Nominate Tony Arnett.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do you accept that nomination?
I will.
Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to close the nominations at this time?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
seconded by Craig. Then all those in favor of Tony Arnett as board president? Oh, I'm sorry, yes, signify by saying aye. You do not need to fill out your ballot as we just have one nominee. So signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will go ahead and have you go back into your presidential role, Mr. Arnett.
Thank you. Thank you again for your confidence and your trust. I will do my utmost to continue to fulfill that. Our next item up is the election of a board vice president. Do I hear any nominations for vice president? Schrader, any other nominations? I'm sorry, is there a second for that nomination? Second. Seconded by Mike. Any other nomination?
I nominate Doug.
And is there a second?
I second.
Are there any other nominations for vice president? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to close nomination? Moved by Mike, is there a second on that? No. All those in favor of closing nominations? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, nominations are closed. I'm sorry.
I'll accept.
Thank you. All right, you now have ballots in front of you. Please fill out the first one for vice president, for either Doug or David.
I'll be having a tie vote.
All right, to the second ballot.
Still tied?
We're still tied. Please take your third ballot for vice president.
You're doing good walking though, Sandra.
Right? My physical therapy.
You're being-
There's still time. Let's go to your fourth ballot. Well, let's use the one with the president, the D in front of that.
Only can we make a motion to postpone it till after the new person is nominated or appointed? Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be a 4-4, I presume. I mean, I don't know who has to vote on that. I'm just saying is that we're expecting a change in the outcome without changing the voters. I'm fine wasting paper.
I would imagine if they're not sworn in, they
The intention was to swear that individual in,
and immediately.
not immediately, but for the following board
Right.
meeting. Do need to reorganize the board in April.
Okay.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Not a
It's a
problem.
very good idea.
We have seen vote shifts before.
Yes. Yes.
We don't have a choice. Would either individual like to concede? Is that something that's?
Could
someone
do so,
could
but
choose to
I,
decline a nomination if they wish to. All right, folks.
All right, I'll decline. We'll just go on forever. Sure.
Decline your nomination.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, do I hear a motion to confirm the remaining nominee? So moved. Moved by Mike. Is there a second? Tina? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, David. Next is the election of board clerk. Do I hear any nominations?
Nominate Doug.
Doug, do you wish to accept that nomination? Sure. Are there any other nominees? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to close nominations, returning unanimous ballot in favor of the sole nominee? So moved. Moved by Mike, is there a second? Second. By Craig. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. And lastly, there is the election of the board treasurer. Do I hear nominations?
Nominate Dave Smith. Second.
Do you wish to accept that nomination?
I will.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to close nominations and return unanimous ballot in favor of the sole nominee? So moved. By Mike, is there a second? Second by Tina. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations. Next is the appointment of a deputy clerk. Do I hear a motion to appoint Jamie Rosenau as our deputy clerk? Moved by Mike, seconded by Tina. Make an assumption, continue to go into that.
I am willing.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. For board committee assignments and representatives, we have two specific that we need to fill this evening. And then I'll speak to our standing committees after that. The first is the Watertown Educational Foundation. And the next is the Watertown Family Center. Are there volunteers going to take on those roles?
I think I did, I was the family center last year with 0 meetings, so I'll be happy to continue that.
And is there a volunteer for the Educational Foundation?
Meetings of the Education Foundation are approximately quarterly. They're also fairly infrequent meeting with lots of opportunity to give back and review grants and opportunities to engage with staff and community, just in case you're uncertain of their role.
Probably not. They probably want you to be one or the other.
Just wanted to make sure.
I have a bond.
Thank you, Lori. With regard to our board standing committees, I will circulate a note to all of you asking you to give me your first, second, and third preferences. And based on your feedback, I will do my level best to get everybody at least their first preference. Successful the last couple times, so hopefully I'll be able to continue that pattern. And then I'll announce all of those appointments before the next set of meetings. Okay, our last organizational item is the representative for CISA 2. Is there somebody who would be willing to take this on? This is a annual meeting for our CISA district. It's the obligation.
And there is dinner.
I would be interested.
All right. Craig, do I hear a motion to appoint Craig as our CISA 2 delegate?
So moved.
David, seconded by Tina. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. All right, this brings us to preview the agenda. Do we have any changes we need to make to the agenda?
I am scanning for our student board reps and I do not see them out there. And they are not online either. So right now we would not have them here, but if they should arrive later, we would certainly let them know when they arrive. Otherwise, there are no changes to the agenda.
This brings us to one of two opportunities for the public to address the board. There's one at the end of the meeting. If you'd like to be recognized and you're in the room, just please raise your hand. We'll recognize you. You can step up to the podium and you give your name and address for your brief comments. If you're online, please use the raise your hand feature. And again, we will announce you before we enable your microphone, and please give your name and address at that time. Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized this time? Please.
Najarian, 2 Riverdale Circle, Watertown, Wisconsin, 53094. It's really fun being on this side of the podium. I just wanted to thank all of you and new board members and current board members for all the service that you do. Now I know firsthand what kind of commitment it is and what it involves. So thank you so very much. Continue doing good work for our students and staff and community. What I wanted to share tonight was my thoughts on the safety protocols. I would like to recommend that you go back to pre-COVID times, whereas not having that on the dashboard, not having that in the recording when we call in and we have to listen to that lengthy recording whenever your child is absent or you want to reach the office. I'm looking at what is happening locally and our numbers and our cases. And I think it's time that we go back to pre-COVID times and take it off of our dashboard and seriously think about the protocols you have when your child is ill and still emphasize that, but not have it be so much COVID related. Thank you. That's all.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone online? I don't see anybody with raised their hand. All right, there will be a second opportunity at the end of the meeting. So next up, we have board member recognition. We have 4 members leaving the board: Steve Koffel, Katie Najarian, Jennifer Bakke, and Paul Van der Langberg, 3 of whom are present this evening. And we will have resolutions to all these effect. Whereas Steve Koffel has served as a member of the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District for the past 9 years. And whereas he has served with distinction and dedication while representing and promoting the best educational interests of the youth of Watertown Unified School District. And whereas he has also served on a number of special committees of the Board of Education. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District does hereby express its appreciation and gratitude to Steve Koffel for his unselfish public service and for the significant contributions he has made to the Watertown Unified School District and public education.
Thank you for your service. So receiving a plaque, so that all of you new and existing board members know that you have this sometime in your future with a plaque with the name and the years of service to the district. So thank you again, Steve, for all your years.
Good news.
They have been good there. Take care, Steve.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll take a motion on all these resolutions. at the end. Next, Katie Najarian.
We might need to give you your letter a little bit later.
Is there an error?
There's a small error.
Okay. Whereas Katie Najarian has served as a member of the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District for the past 1 year, and whereas she has served with distinction and dedication while representing and promoting the best educational interests of the youth of the Watertown Unified School District, and whereas she has also served on a number of special committees of the Board of Education, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District does hereby express its appreciation and gratitude to Katie Najarian for her unselfish public service and for the significant contribution she has made to the Watertown Unified School District and public education.
I'll deliver.
Thanks, Katie.
Jennifer Bocchio is unable to join us this evening, but I will still read hers. Whereas Jennifer Bocchio has served as a member of the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District for the past 8 years, and whereas she has served with distinction and dedication while representing and promoting the best educational interests of the youth of the Watertown Unified School District, and whereas she has also served on a number of special committees of the Board of Education, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District does hereby express its appreciation and gratitude to Jennifer Bonnke for her unselfish public service and for the significant contributions she has made to the Watertown Unified School District and public education. Paul Vanden Heuvel. Whereas Paul Vanden Langenberg has served as a member of the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District for the past 6 years, and whereas he has served with distinction and dedication while representing and promoting the best educational interests of the youth of the Watertown Unified School District, and whereas he has also served on a number of special committees of the Board of Education, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Watertown Unified School District does hereby express its appreciation and gratitude to Paul Vanden Langenberg for his unselfish public service and for the significant contributions he has made to the Watertown Unified School District and public education.
A pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, do I hear a motion on resolutions 9094, 9095, 9096, and 9097?
Second.
Moved by Paul, second by Craig.
If we decline, can they stay?
Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the 2022 Best Communities for Education and NAMM recognition, non-recognition.
Yes, we have once again received the Best Communities for Music non-recognition, which is a national recognition for the quality of music programming provided here in the district. And it is an award that we are so privileged to receive Our music department, Reed Ledoux specifically completes the paperwork for this. I have said every year that I've been here, that our music department is second to absolutely none. From the opportunities we give our students to the quality of the performances that we see every single year, the musical that is outstanding. In just a few weeks, we're going to have the Mark Woods concert, a absolutely state-of-the-art opportunity for our students. There's no district doing it better. We have the best music team in the state, and I would go even farther than that. They are extraordinary. They do hard work to make this application, and we are honored to receive it. Again, Mr. Ledoux is in parent-teacher conferences this evening and not able to be here with us to officially present it, but we wanted to share that with you here this evening. And we will yet again be hanging that banner in all of our schools. So huge congratulations to our music department, music families, and music program. We have another recognition to make this evening. This is on behalf of the DPI, the School Nutrition Association, No Kid Hungry in Wisconsin, and the Hunger Task Force, who are recognizing our food and nutrition staff. It is a late recognition on behalf of National Breakfast Week, but while it is a later recognition, we are so proud. Again, our food and nutrition team has had many, many barriers that they have had to overcome over these past 2 years. We were one of the first districts in the state to have to be prepared to give students and families meals during the pandemic. Our food and nutrition team was at multiple locations, rain, shine, every other condition that we get in spring. Here in Wisconsin, they drove buses around town and delivered meals to everyone who needed them. Our food and nutrition team has worked every summer over the course of the pandemic and continued to get those meals into the hands of our students and families. We know there's been struggles with supply lines and challenges that they face, staffing challenges that they faced, but there is not anyone in our school nutrition program that is not kind to students every single day and works incredibly hard. We are very proud of that team and very proud of this recognition for them tonight. And we also have a donation to recognize from Fisher Barton Blades for $1,500. Again, huge kudos to Jesse Domer and his team for all the work they do to build community partnerships, and huge gratitude towards Fisher Barton Blades for this generous donation towards Skills USA.
All right.
Our students are not here, but yes, that brings us to the end of our recognitions and announcements.
Okay, then we'll move on to the strategic discussion portion of our agenda. First up is a proposal for a trip to Germany in 2023.
That's you, Kim. Come on up.
Good evening. Thank you for seeing me and considering my proposal to take students to Germany once again. Finally, the last time we were able to go was 2019. We again would like to travel with Seated Tours. They did a really fantastic job for us last time. The prices have gone up a bit, like everywhere. Of course, a major part of our costs are the airline tickets. We're looking at about $3,300 per student if we only get 10 students to go, and if we can get 12, 15 or more, it'll be down to $3,000. One of the ways that I try to keep the costs down is I do provide the tour guide services at no cost to the students. That saves quite a bit of money. So this proposal, while it's more expensive than it has been in the past, is still quite a bit less than if we were to go with another company that would not allow me to do that. We'll be repeating the same trip we took in 2019, staying in Dachau outside of Munich at the youth hostel there. And then for about a week and doing day trips into Munich and around Munich and into Salzburg in Austria. And then spending a week with our host families. I have spoken with the teachers in Germany and they are ready to welcome us with open arms. Lord willing, we are all right. We hang on and do the best that we can right now. But yes, they're ready to welcome us. They are also planning on coming next year, possibly in the fall as they should be. but possibly not till this spring. It depends on how the rest of the school year goes for them and how things play out on a global scale. So that's what we're looking at. I already have 6 host families recruited for the 16 students, so at least people who have expressed interest. We're not finalized yet, obviously. Does anyone have any questions?
Board members, questions? Please, Tina.
If like if something world event, happens and things like that, and you're not able to take the trip, how is that handled and like, cost refundable and things like that?
I'll have to review exactly the refund. I was just reading it last week, but I can't remember if it gets canceled for things out of our control. If students cancel, there's a $125 cancellation fee up until about 2 months before we go, and then they start losing more money. But that's if students cancel. If our trip is canceled for reasons outside of our control, I think that would be changed. They wouldn't lose everything that they've got. I do have 2 potential deadlines for people who want to spread their payments out. I have a deadline for May coming up. Understanding that things are uncertain and people might not want to take a chance on doing that, there's another deadline for October next year. But that just, it crunches the payments a little bit together, and I like to give people time to be able to spread those out. But people can choose that, what kind of risk they want to take with that. CETA does require now all participants to be vaccinated, as just as a matter of course. So that's another new measure.
Kim, will they all have travel insurance as well?
Yes, CETA encourages them to get travel insurance. Thank you, because that impacts that. So depending on what level of travel insurance they purchase, they could get more of their costs refunded. But actually CETA, I can't remember if they use the word require or strongly encourage the travelers to buy the travel insurance, and it's quite reasonable. They can get it straight through CETA, but it's very, very reasonable.
Over the past few years, we've had to cancel some of these trips. We found most of the travel companies very accommodating to either postpone or to refund those different options, especially if the students.
Other questions from board members?
Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And thank you for coordinating this opportunity for us.
You're
There will
very
be a
welcome.
resolution
Yeah,
later to approve that.
All right, this brings us to the selection of a new member to fill our vacancy. The proposed voting process is outlined in your meeting materials. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to address the board, explaining their interest and qualifications. The board will have the opportunity to ask questions after each candidate makes his or her remarks. At the conclusion of the candidate remarks and board questions, board members got these ballots again. It does require your signature on it. That is state statute. When your choice and sign it. And votes will be tabulated, and we'll see if we have a winner. Otherwise, we will continue to wash, rinse, repeat as you just with Mr. All right. We have 3 individuals who step forward. They are Wendy Pliska, who is unable to be here this evening in person at the last minute, but she is online. We have Diana Johnson, and we have Trevor Thomas. Do I hear a motion to approve this voting process, selection process? Sorry, so by Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lori. Comments or questions on the motion for the selection process? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. All right, so next we will proceed with each candidate individually. Again, they'll make their presentation. We'll have opportunities to ask the questions. Next one. Next one. And the next one. All right. Just gonna take a more in which they're here. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Thomas, you are first. You can step up to the podium.
Yes, sir. Well, members of the board, my name is Trevor Thomas, and I just want to say, first off, thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you this evening with regards to the vacant board position. So I'll talk a little bit about my background first, and then some of my qualifications, and then you all can fire away. Background, I'm not from Wisconsin. I actually only moved here in 2015 after leaving active duty service as a Marine officer. I live here in Watertown with my 2 children and wife, and couldn't be happier. But I think if we're going to talk about where I come from and kind of my qualifications, we should just really go back to, well, where I was born, which is Wyoming. I'm from Wyoming. Afton, Wyoming, a small town just south of Jackson Hole. If anybody's been to Jackson Hole, lovely area. Definitely not a rich area. My mom is a school teacher. She was an educator for 30 years. She was actually my 3rd grade teacher in a small town called Bighorn, which is just south of Sheridan in Wyoming. So that's a unique experience. My father was a rancher, and if it wasn't for a blizzard in the winter of '85, I also might have been a rancher. But we lost all our cattle, and my father moved into group homes and children's care. And then from there, he took a job as director for Volunteers of America in Wyoming, and that's what he did, and moved into Nevada for that as well. So we moved from Wyoming to Nevada. I graduated from high school in '98, and the only thing I knew at that point is that I really wasn't ready for college. So I joined the Navy, which was a tradition on my father's side, grandfather, all of that. And that has started an 18-year career for me as a military service. I was an enlisted man, and I got sent over to Japan. Really enjoyed that. When I was done with it, I wanted nothing to do with the military ever again. Right? Like I just knew that was for me. But I met my first wife over there, and we came back to the States. I got orders, or she got orders up to Alaska, and we spent the next 3 years of our life in Alaska. My son was born, and I completed my bachelor's. I have a BS in biological sciences from the University of Alaska. At that point, I still had this nagging feeling that I hadn't done what I wanted to do as a service member and serving my country, serving my community. And this was in 2008. So I joined the Marine Corps, and I commissioned as a Marine officer in 2008. The family moved over to Quantico, Virginia, where I completed my training. I was given the job of a human intelligence and counterintelligence officer, and then promptly sent back to Japan again, and served out there in the 3rd Intelligence Battalion. During my time in Japan, I was deployed to Iraq from 2010 to 2011. Once I came back from that, packed up the family, and did my 2nd duty station with the Marine Corps, which was at Fort Meade, Maryland, where I helped stand up Marine Forces Cyber Command and gain kind of the skills that pushed me over into the civilian world in 2015, when the Marine Corps said that no more cyber stuff for you, you're going to go back and do intel stuff. And I really was passionate about that and wanted to make that transition. My first wife was from Wisconsin. And so when we knew we were leaving active duty and we needed a place where there could be family and kind of that buffer where we had spent our entire adult lives doing military things, we needed that transition. We came to Watertown, and it was a great fit. It was a great fit for the children, great community. And well, I'm still here. So what I did is I transitioned over to the civilian world, and I took on a role as a consultant for cybersecurity for a company called Ernst & Young. I didn't realize how busy I was going to be, and I've spent most of the last 7 years running around like crazy, really working as a subject matter expert with regards to cyber operations for Fortune 500 companies, helping them identify risk, operationalize their processes, and grow steadily and more safely, because at this point everybody wants to stay out of the news. If you're a board member at a large Fortune 500 company, your biggest concern is not being in the news like so many others. And so that's what I've spent a lot of time doing. But I still had a passion to serve, and that continued as soon as I left active duty service. I came over to the Wisconsin National Guard, and I took on, I was accepted as an infantry officer here at the Wisconsin Army National Guard. My first job, funny enough, was to be a CAV guy here at Watertown Armory, and I took command of the Watertown Armory here at Bravo Troop for a couple of years, and then moved up to Alpha Company at the 127th, where I deployed to Afghanistan. Thought I was slowing down a little bit, not the case. What I guess I say through all of that is I talk about what I've done from a military perspective and then the cyber perspective. There's a depth and breadth of being exposed to complex problems in complex situations that with no easy outcomes. And I think that is a key to what you all do. There's no secret that school boards aren't easy. It can be a difficult place. And I think, you know, the leadership and the background that I have is definitely something that can be beneficial to them. I will go ahead and just disclose now that I am a San Francisco 49ers fan. Yeah, but I figured we should probably get that out of the way now before we got any further.
Already
down
saw
the
that on
road.
your social.
Say again?
It's already saw it on my Facebook.
Yeah.
It says the Bears fan.
That's tough. My only condolences that Devo will probably be playing for the Packers here in a couple of days. So, yeah, but I guess at that point, I'll go ahead and pause. I don't want to take all night. So, you know, please ask away any questions, comments, concerns about where I've gone, what I've done, and why I'm here.
All right, thank you. Board members, what questions do you have? Let's go first. Greg, go ahead.
What are areas of concern regarding student achievement, and do you have specific suggestions for improvement?
I would say that you want to look at, from a student achievement perspective, if I had an area of concern, I would just say opportunities for children to achieve. And I'll go back to my own experience as a young man coming out of high school. I think I graduated with like a 2.89 or something, like it wasn't stellar. And I have had the opportunity to be successful because people gave me second chances and because people were willing to, look past some of my initial challenges. And so if I were worried about student achievement, talking about that, I would say looking towards finding a way to have a broad process for that, not focusing on always just our top achievers, but looking to pull down and look across the group to say, how can we encourage student achievement across a broad range of children, a broad range of backgrounds, and hopefully trying to get a more representative and community-driven process.
And thank you for your service as well.
Who's next? Tina, please.
So one of the next big tasks that we have, in this short while and things like that, is, going through superintendent search and things like that. What do you feel as far as what qualities or what skills do you bring to the table as far as being able to help us, go through that process?
Well, that's a great question. So in my role at UI, I led all of our national recruiting for college students to come in and hire for technology and technology roles. And so lots of opportunities and lots of experience there with just interviewing, hiring, and then also having those conversations along the way as well. Also, I would say as just being exposed to multiple leaders at all different levels at multiple different kinds of corporations. And then also from the military side, you certainly get a handle on what good leadership looks like and what good leadership isn't, and kind of what you need to look for in a leader. So, as you review resumes or look at people's backgrounds and what they've done, would want somebody who would be able to provide a strategic vision, right? I would want somebody who could go ahead and not necessarily be so focused that they can't, so focused on the nitty details of day-to-day operations that they can't realize that as a superintendent, your job is to provide the way ahead for the district. You to provide that guidance, that vision and plan. And where I've seen leaders fail time again is not trusting their subordinates, not trusting those to their left and right, and really being too detailed and not being able, and then everybody looks around and say, well, how do we get from point A to point E? The other part is being able to build coalitions and being able to build teams, like in effective teams, right? So many caustic leaders out there just can't work in a way that is really effective, and they manage and lead by fear or by threat. And so I think you're also going to be searching for somebody who has a demonstrated ability to reach across, bridge differences, build successful teams, and if necessary, bring people with them, to build their teams as well. So, absolutely.
Okay, other board members' questions? Dave?
So we just came off an election here a couple weeks ago, and so board members, now this vacancy became available. What made you choose this vacancy but not to be elected
That is also a great.
a month or two ago?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I will tell you, the reason that I'm here is that my circumstances have recently changed. When I was working at UI as a senior manager, I didn't have the bandwidth to do anything. My morning started at 3:30 with global calls, and then I would work till 8, 9, or 10 o'clock at night. So I haven't had that opportunity. I've just been working like a dog, and then fitting in Army life, and then fitting in family life, and so there hasn't been an opportunity to do anymore. I left consulting right in the beginning of February and transitioned to a new job in March. And so I'm now the director of threat intelligence and incident management at a pharmaceutical company out west. But my quality of life has changed. I now get out of bed at around 7 o'clock in the morning, and I get done sometimes somewhere around 5. And what has happened in that time period is the conversations with my wife about, hey, I've given and served at the national level, and I found that to be rewarding. I've given and served at the state level, as the OIC of the officer in charge for riots in Milwaukee in 2017, for the Burlington floods in 2017, for the Madison riots in 2020. And then I was also the operations officer for the inauguration of the 500 men and women that we took to Washington, D.C. to protect that process. So I've served at the state level. I would like to serve more directly and more involved at the community level. And so I reached out and was asking questions, and I realized that I missed the deadline for the recent elections. And I was like, well, okay. And then I heard about this, and I thought, well, Trevor, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. Put yourself out there and see what you can see if you are able to contribute in this way. Thank you, Dan.
Other board members?
I have a question. So in the headlines, there's critical race theory, there's gender inclusiveness, are in the national headlines now. What do you think when you see these headlines? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's another great question. And I'll tell you, I deal with that and these issues, and have dealt with these issues, as a leader in the Marine Corps and Army for years. Change is coming. Change has come, right? And so from a leader's mentality on that perspective, like, it's about having honest conversations, open conversations with those around us. I come from a place of inclusivity. I come from a place of acceptance. And really what I'm concerned about as a leader is that building inclusive teams where we can support children to get the job done and get the job done in a right way. I think the children are the most valuable asset that we have, right? I have a 9-year-old who goes to school here in the district. My son graduated last year. And I think that it's our job to come together as a team and provide that guidance where it's a safe place for everybody to come to school and learn, and we can leave whatever else that we think outside of that.
So let's say you're selected. A year from now, looking back, how would you judge whether the year was successful for you or not?
That's a good question, Tony. If I had to look back at what success would look like, was I able to contribute and make the school board better? Am I able to contribute and have my voice be heard? In how this district moves forward. I believe Watertown is a fantastic community that is full of hardworking people. And I think if I could look back and say that I was an active member on committees, I spoke up where I have my expertise, and I learned when I didn't. And I would say in a year from now, when this comes to an end, maybe I'll just run for re-election and it won't be done.
And is there one burning issue that we think we need to confront more than others right now? That's
Filling this spot. No, I don't think I come to this this board with any one burning issue. Again, I see myself as a generalist with a lot of different backgrounds, and in just working together to find solutions is really where I want to focus.
Other board members, any other questions for this candidate? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all very much. I do very much appreciate the opportunity. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Trevor. Next up is Wendy Pliska, who is online.
Good evening, folks. I really apologize. I had every intention of being with you in person, and at about 5:30 today, we realized my husband's allergies were not allergies, and I thought you all might appreciate me staying home and not being among you in person. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm here to offer my perspective, which I think is a perspective that we do not currently have on the board. In the past, we've been very lucky in town to have current and former educators. Fran Milburn was a gift to the board. Those of you who've been on the board long enough to remember Fran's service, she provided really valuable insight into not just what the community needs and what parents need, but also what the staff in the trenches experience every day. I am a practicing educator in Dane County. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I've gone from teaching in a private school as a social studies teacher to working at a high school in Waukesha County and serving as a reading specialist. I now run our alternative education program at my current high school, which is in Dane County. I also have been blessed to be able to work with teachers in districts around the state. In 2007, I started teaching adjunct courses for Viterbo University, and I worked with teachers from Rhinelander to Milwaukee to Mount Horeb, really across the state. And that's given me a great deal of insight into what other districts do well and what are issues that are really universal across districts throughout our state. I also teach graduate courses to pre-service teachers, so I have the opportunity to work with young and new to our profession teachers who are just getting ready to student teach. And that's always a really exciting group of people to work with. And that's given me insight into what our new people coming into the profession are excited about, what they're worried about, what they're looking for. And as I said, that gives me insight that I don't think we currently have on the board. I decided to throw my hat into the ring because I really think that the district is at a pivotal point with Dr. Shug taking a position elsewhere. Our district is, we don't know where it's going, right? Whoever we choose for our superintendent is really going to make a difference as to what vision, what direction we go into. And I think education in general is also really at a crossroads. I'm sure that Watertown, like other districts that I know, is perhaps not yet finding it hard to recruit and retain teachers, but I think we're all seeing that come down the road. I think making sure that our children have the best possible adults in the classroom to support their learning really has to be our primary goal. If our kids aren't coming to school every day excited and learning and feeling supported, then essentially we failed at our most essential task. And our community, like many communities around the state and around the country, is really divided. I would not wish your inboxes on my worst enemy. I know you folks have felt the vitriol from all sides of the community in the last few years. And I worry that if we don't have a strong superintendent and a really cohesive, experienced board, that we may not be able to come back from that divisiveness, and our kids need us to. Our kids need us to work together as a community and work together as a school board and work together as school staff to provide them the best that we can. So that's a very simple overview of my experience and why I'm interested. Personally, I have 2 kiddos in the district. I've got a 5th grader at Webster. I have an 8th grader at middle school. She's looking forward to being at the high school next year. My husband and I have lived in Watertown since 2005. And we chose this community when we got married and were looking to put down our roots because we really appreciate the sense of community here. I've taught in several places in southeastern Wisconsin, and there's not a lot of cities that have, a thriving downtown, and everyone goes to the football games on Friday nights, and we have 4th of July parades, and we have festivals. That's not common here, and I value that quite a bit. And again, I worry that if we don't work together to solve that divide that I see in person and online and in social media, that we might lose some of that. So again, that's really my motivation here, is I think that I can bring some really valuable experience, and I'm really motivated to help Watertown heal some of those wounds and really move forward to be the best that it can be.
Thank you, Ms. Pliska. Questions for this candidate? Greg? Did you not know you signed up for that?
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Wendy, do you feel that parents should have a say in what is taught in the classroom, and why?
I think that the school board and school administrators and teachers should work together with parents and the community. But I see that more as a global meta partnership. I don't think that I, as a parent of a 5th grader, should email his teacher, Mrs. Johnson, and say, I want him to read this book, because I know that our teachers are trained experts. And again, one of my motivations for volunteering to serve on the board is that making sure that we have the best, highest qualified, most caring adults in the classroom is what we need. I want to be able to trust that my child's teacher knows what's best for them. On the other hand, I do think that schools work better and children have a better learning experience when we all work together. So I know just again, my experiences with Webster and the middle school, but my son's experience at Webster is they're very welcoming for parents. There's a lot of opportunities for parents to meet with teachers, communicate with teachers, meet with the principal, participate in activities with the school. I have never, as a parent here, felt that my input or perspective or concerns were unwelcome. Really, on the contrary, I have felt extraordinarily blessed with the teachers and staff that my son in particular has worked with. So I think that would be my perspective on that. I don't see a role for individual parents to dictate individual items of curriculum, but I do think that parents should be able to communicate with teachers and administrators, serve on committees when we reevaluate curriculum. Professionally, that has been my experience in the past, that when districts that I've worked with in the past have reviewed curriculum, proposed new initiatives, we have often invited parents and community members and frankly students to participate in that work, and that always ends up with a better product and a better experience for our students.
Thank you. Next question, Tina?
Hi, Wendy, thank you. So as a board, as we embark on our next big task of selecting a new superintendent, I know you kind of alluded to some things before, but could you just kind of like reiterate, like what skills do you bring that could add value as we go through this process of selecting a new superintendent?
That's a really good question. Thank you, Tina. I think I come with a blend, excuse me, I come with a blend of professional experience in the field of education, and then also my own personal experience as a parent and a community member, but particularly as someone who has worked in the field of education for over 20 years and has taught, gosh, 17 years. I don't even think that sounds possible. 17 years of adjunct courses with Carroll University and Viterbo University and Edgewood College. I really probably would bore some of you with the intricacies of current initiatives in education. As many of you in your own careers, like I live and breathe educational policy at this point. So I can envision meeting with superintendent candidates and really being able to understand when we listen to initiatives that they've done in the past, how they've worked with their staffs, how they've worked with their community. I think I would be able to really sift through some of that to really see the core of each candidate. And I think I can also provide insight into, where is Watertown now with what we offer, with what we're good at, with what we struggle with, and what sort of candidate and what sort of criteria and qualifications would we want in a superintendent who can help us take that strong path into the future and not just, paddle and stay with the status quo.
All right, thank you. Next question. Go ahead, Dave Smith.
You talked about solving a divide, healing wounds, divided culture. We're at a pivotal point. Then you talked about a cohesive board as well. So we have recently put together our priorities and strategic plan for the next 3 years. We've set a direction for the district as a board. How do you see yourself as you come into that with an established plan, being able to participate in shaping that as it goes forward?
My primary question in any policy decision, any communication, any conversation with the board is always what's best for our students. It's really easy as adults, whether parent, teacher, community member, board member, administrator, it's really easy to let our own personal feelings and experiences kind of cloud the picture. And what I will always try and do is just take that step back and say, but what's best for the kids? And frankly, sometimes what's best for the kids may not be immediately possible with staffing or budgets. We all know those are not, not easy things to handle sometimes. But for me, the long goal always has to be in any decision that we make with the strategic plan, with personnel decisions, with individual policies. Is this helping the students? Is this making their experience better? Are we being welcoming of all of our children? And if the answer is no, then that's something that we need to work on. So that would be my approach. Working with you on the strategic plan is just always coming back to how is this helping our kids?
Next question?
Hi, Wendy, this is Doug.
Hi.
So the question I asked the previous candidate too, so critical race theory and gender inclusiveness are in the national spotlight. How do you think of that fitting into our curriculum, and what do you see that looking like for Watertown?
Well, and I will speak as a professional educator here. I am not aware of any district in the state that is teaching critical race theory. I can't imagine that would be curriculum that our curriculum advisors or teachers would suggest. So I guess I don't even really see that being an issue that we would have to decide. As far as gender inclusivity, partly I'll go back to my question of, are we helping our kids? And partly I'll go back with the legal perspective of, as the previous candidate stated, the times are changing. The courts have been fairly clear about the parameters that schools have to operate within, as far as welcoming our students. I would, in any question that would come before me, I would look at what's best for the kids, and frankly, what's not going to waste taxpayer money. Like, there's some fights that we just won't win. And as a community member and a responsible board member, I can't imagine pursuing a course of action that would embroil us in a lawsuit that we would lose. So.
Great, thank you.
Other board members? So Wendy, my question, first one is, you're selected a year from now. How do you look back and judge whether you were successful or not?
As I mentioned before, I really see the next year, one of our pivotal tasks being to choose the best possible superintendent that we can to lead the district. And really that will be my primary marker. If we can be back together next April and we either have hired a new superintendent, whether they've started or are just slated to begin, that we're all proud of and excited about, and that we are confident will be leading our staff and students in the direction that we want them to go. That's going to be my primary marker of success.
All right, and then the follow-up is there one burning issue that you think we need to address as a district?
As I said earlier, I don't know that you consider choosing a superintendent a burning issue. I think that's our primary task at hand. I think the issue is acknowledging the rift or the rifts, frankly, that exist between parents and community members, that exist between board members, that exist between, I think in some cases, teachers and admin and community members, and trying to get us to be taking some steps to heal those rifts. Because frankly, as long as we're all fighting each other, nobody's winning and the kids are really losing. Until the parents and the schools and the board can work together, we're not putting our full energy into making the schools the best they can be for our kids. And that's really a shame.
Any other questions for this candidate?
I have
Doug?
one. As far as student achievement and looking at Watertown itself, by itself, what area would you consider the priority right now? Looking at how we operate as a district, report card wise or within that?
I'm not a huge, I don't put a ton of stock in standardized test scores. I think they're a useful measure, but I don't think they're the only measure. My big goal would always be, are we providing balance in the opportunities we're giving our children? I've worked in some very high performing, very well off districts in the past. And we had students going off to Harvard and UCLA and MIT, but we also had students who weren't planning on a four-year college. And frankly, often they got the short end of the stick. My goal for Watertown, particularly being, the community that we are, where we value hard work and we value, working with our hands. I think we have a fairly blue collar background. Personally, in my family, I come from a very blue collar background. My dad was a union pipe fitter. My grandpa was a union painter. We need to make sure that we're providing equal opportunities for all our students. So we need to make sure that our students who want to pursue a four-year college education have strong classes that challenge them and prepare them for college. But we also have to make sure that we have a really strong CTE program that prepares our students who want to go into the trades, who want to go into culinary school, who want to pursue other hands-on and not programs that need a four-year college. And I think we frankly do a fairly good job of that at Watertown, but I think we can always do more. So rather than looking at a particular, we want 90% of our students to be proficient readers at third grade. Those are great goals, but I would really look at boots on the ground. When our students leave Watertown High School, have we really done everything we can to prepare them for whatever path they want to go on to next?
Dave Smith, did you have one more?
Yeah, I wanted to drill in a little bit more. You talked about, superintendent being a priority, filling that role. But then you talk about issues around acknowledging rifts and in the community and trying to build that back. Can you be a little more specific on like an example of a rift that you believe is there and a solution that you believe that you can help the board as a board member provide?
Well, with respect, I can only imagine that your email inbox has been like the email inbox of every board member and administrator that I know, that in the last 2 years, you have had parents screaming on one side, anti-mask, anti-regulations, anti-quarantine, and on the other side have parents screaming that we're not masking enough and we're endangering our students. These two groups of people are not talking to each other. I know people who've been friends for years who no longer talk, who block each other on social media, who look the other way when they see each other in Pick and Save. These are all voters and parents in our district. And I'm not naive enough to think that in 1 year on the board that I can solve this issue, but I do think it's important that we acknowledge that people in our community are really fired up. And really all parents are fired up because we want what we think is best for our kids. We just don't agree on what's best for our kids. And so let's hope, ironically, as my husband's upstairs ill, but let's hope that as COVID kind of works its way out of our collective systems, that we can stop thinking about the emergency of the moment and start looking towards like, okay, we all just weathered a really significant collective trauma and we didn't all act our best. And how do we now maybe mend some fences, maybe never, have each other for barbecue again, but how do we mend some of those fences so that we can work together in the future? I don't know that I have a specific strategy in mind for that. I think that you folks on the board have done a pretty good job about being open to parent and community inputs. God bless you, because I know that wasn't easy. But I think the first step is acknowledging, just pretending that everyone gets along and that this is going to blow over. I don't think that's going to work. I think we have to acknowledge that there's a lot of hurt and anger here, and acknowledging, cleaning out that wound, letting it get some fresh air and sunlight. That's the first step to starting to heal some of those wounds and moving forward.
Right, Craig?
You had mentioned in your comments that education in Watertown is at a crossroads. What do you mean by that?
I think education in Watertown and education nationwide is at a crossroads. I'm sure, I'm sure as a new board member, you've educated yourself and kept up on news articles. We have fewer and fewer people entering the profession. We have lots and lots of baby boomers retiring. Some of them, frankly, earlier than we'd hoped. So I think, when I started the profession in the late 90s, a district could get 400 applications for a kindergarten teacher or a high school history teacher. We're not getting that anymore. So I think our whole community cultural view of education has shifted. And if we can't, at least in Watertown, again, work together, make this a community where people want to live, make this a community where people want to teach, then I think we will start to find that it's harder to get those really excited, high quality trained people to be in the front of our classroom. We all know that budgets are getting tighter. The state's not sending schools a lot more money every year. So you as the board and the administrators have to always make do with a little bit less and meet those needs. So I really do think that we're not, in dire straits yet, but I do think there's some issues that we need to see coming and work as a board to plan for, so that in 5 or 10 years, we're not in terrible shape. And we're doing that, as I said before, at a time when we don't have the community necessarily unified behind us, right? This is a time when there's a lot of contention. And so we're trying to solve some heavy problems when there's a lot of disagreement about what direction the school should go in.
Nice. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Blisko.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And our third candidate is Ms. Diana Johnson.
Good evening. I'm Diana Johnson, and I'm a retired teacher with over 25 years of experience. I'm married. I have 2 high school age children and have been a member of this community for about 20 years. My days now are spent enjoying my kids' activities, subbing occasionally in the classroom, controlling the financial side of our sales company, and I'm the CEO of the rock picking crew on our family farm. I'm a solutions-oriented person. I think it's a total waste of time to sit and debate problems. As a parent, I hold my kids accountable for their actions. As a teacher, I invested time to make every student successful and accountable for their learning and for their behaviors. My goal is to collaborate with other members of the board in holding district leaders accountable for the goals and expectations that they set forth. I've learned a lot these past 25 years. On top of teaching, I was a team leader, a math department chair and district coordinator, a district leader in standards-based grading, a district leader and national presenter on student-led conferencing, a teacher leader and mentor in educator effectiveness, a math instructional coach, a leader in differentiated instruction, and a math interventionist. There were trials and tribulations along the way. I promise to share the wisdom that I learned in that awesome 25-year journey. I can also assist in bringing clarity to the sometimes confusing teacher lingo and jargon for both board members and teachers. The board has a unique and exciting opportunity right now to implement change with the hiring of a new superintendent. I look forward to the opportunity to being a part of this process with you. And I look forward to serving the community to make Watertown schools the best it possibly can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Right. All right. What do you recognize as positive opportunities where the Watertown Unified School District can make biggest impact on academic achievement?
Sorry, that got a little distracted. Can you repeat that again?
Basically, the last part of it would be, what opportunities would you recognize within the Watertown Unified School District where we could make the biggest impact on academic achievement?
Positive opportunities always come, in my opinion, with providing every student the right to learn. That has to be rigorous. That has to be, I'll use the district model, rigorous and relevant. You hear that in so many different districts. If you're not providing rigor and relevance to every kid, no matter what level they have, it's not going to be a positive opportunity for them either way.
Ori?
I see that you have a master in curriculum. Is that a passion of yours?
Yes, education's a passion.
Right.
And so I'll just tell you, when I started teaching, I started back in college, I stayed myself, college in the 90s, started teaching in 95. And actually my principal at the time, when I went for curriculum instruction, I was a year and a half out of college. I was coaching 5 sports. I was doing whatever I could. And I thought, you know, I want to make an impact in the school. So I'll go curriculum instruction to get as much knowledge as I could. And my principal looked at me and said, I'm gonna begrudgingly sign off on this. You should go to become a principal. And I said, maybe I'll do that someday, but I've always just stayed, everything I do, when you think about what I've done in these years, it's always been somehow oriented to making schools the best place they can be for kids. So is the curriculum side of things, I have unpacked and repacked the math standards for grades 6, 7, and 8. I have rewritten assessments for the Waukesha School District for grades 6, 7, and 8. Is curriculum a passion? Students are my passion. And frankly, there are jobs that nobody volunteers to do. Hey, it needs to be done.
All right, next question, Tina.
So as we embark on this next big task that we have to do for selecting a superintendent, what skills or qualities, things like that, do you feel that you have that can help us through that process?
A few different things come to mind. I'll be forthright, honest. I've never picked a superintendent before, but I've worked with a lot of people over the years. I'm going to tell you, in Waukesha, when I was there, we had the best superintendent ever, hands down. And so what skills do I bring? I guess I could just bring, and I'll share with you now. I guess maybe I shouldn't share with you now because then you won't vote me in. But we need someone that's going to put students first, that has a vision. And so skills, I am task-oriented, goals-oriented, follow-through oriented. And so I want to help that resonate, to bring that to the board as well. I guess you didn't ask what I want from the superintendent, but skills is being able to sift through those qualities isn't an easy task, because here's this wonderful, phenomenal person that has this great resume. Okay, let's ask some of those tough questions. What's their vision? Where's their strategic plan? What does that look like? What history do they have? How is their student report card look? I've done data digging my entire life. There's people in here that I've worked with that I've been sitting opposite them, asking those hard questions. And as long as we can understand that, it's not that I'm not standing with, we're having a conversation to make this all better, making the best choice possible. And I believe that's my greatest strength.
All right, next board member.
Sure. So I'm going back to the critical race theory, gender inclusiveness and the curriculum. It's on national spotlight. What do you think of it when you think of Watertown? How does that pertain to us or not pertain to us? What are your thoughts on it?
How does it pertain to us, or what's my stance on it?
Either one, whatever you'd like to say about it.
It's hard because every student has the right to learn. I personally don't think teachers should be teaching critical race theory. That's something that what I'm going to do with my family, and same with when you talk about gender inclusiveness, every student has the right to feel included. I worked in the largest online school in the nation last year. I'll tell you a story that happened there. I had a student that transgender, parents didn't support it, and they had a whole separate world that's at school. We do this and that's, there's a fine line. You know, there's got to be community support, parental support, teacher understanding. You can be inclusive and understanding and not imposing your personal thoughts and beliefs on them. So there is a place for things at home, at school. Kids have the right to be educated. They have the right to feel safe. They have the right to take risks. We need to be able to provide that without putting anybody down or putting anybody in a bad situation. And there's always different vantage points, and we have to be really careful.
Okay, so why now? There was an election earlier this month. What made you come up with the open seat versus the election?
My husband's been pushing me to do this for 15 years. As a teacher, putting in the time and energy and all the other millions of things we have going on is their time. I've been kicking this idea around for the past 6 and thought, do I really have the time? My kids are at the prime of their life. I'm missing my kid's ball game tonight. My daughter she's a pitcher, got hit in the face. How is she doing? My son started for the second time ever this. How is he doing? But then I go back to, wait a second. It was my kids that said, Mom, you can make an impact. You can watch our games. You can get the updates. You can watch it on YouTube. Go do it. Okay, you're right.
So you can guess my questions. The first one is a year from now. If you've been selected, how do you look back and judge success?
As other candidates have said, as you all know, the superintendent role is probably the biggest. And finding someone that's pretty phenomenal is going to be a big mark of success. Working in the schools as long as I have, this is driving a barge. So to look for success, you know, it's like you're going to see little things along the way that make an impact. It's not a speed bump. And so when I started training teachers nationwide 15 years ago in math, it was manageable change. Well, when you think about success, what little things, the little successes, those baby steps amount to big steps. So have we made progress on our strategic plan? As I went and reflected that, I've heard a lot about the strategic plan, you know, but I wanted to dig into it. I gotta tell you that it's really hard to find the nuts and bolts when you're not a member of the board or a member of the district. I've read strategic plans in the districts I've worked in, and it's page upon page and how we dig in, how we doing. You're monitoring progress. And so while it might not be a super big, oh, aha, this, but some of those little steps in that strategic plan, it's a 1-year goal, it's a 3-year goal, it's a 5-year goal. So did we meet the 1-year goal? Are you asking my personal or as a district? For me personal, did I help meet those 1-year goals? Did I help meet those steps for the 5-year goals? Did I work together with board members to make those tough decisions? Did I help clarify things? That would be success for me.
All right, and is there one burning issue you think we need to address?
There's a lot of burning issues, and that's why I'm here ready to walk the fire with you. Burning issue number 1, I think, is the superintendent. Burning number 2, I'm reluctant to say because I don't know what kind of fire and questions you're going to bring, but how do you spend ESSER fund money? Where does that go? You know, those are things that. Anybody ask me that question right now? No, just kidding. Just because you all have, as board members, have a lot more background in that than what me as a parent has been informed of at this point. I know, and some of you maybe you do, maybe you don't remember, right after that initial presentation, I did put my thoughts and feelings out there to the board. Here's what I think about ESSER funds and here's my thoughts on where that should go. That's huge. When you get that big of a gift, I'm gonna call it a gift. Wow, here we have some money. How can we make an impact? Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Other board members, questions? Any other questions? Please. Thank you, Brenda. All right, so we agreed upon the process. We've heard them speak. We've asked them questions. We've heard their responses. You have it in front of you. Set of these ballots. And the process is for you to write down your selection and to sign it. Elected, we'll see where we stand. And your choices are Thomas, Wendy Pliska, Diana Johnson. Yes, and just to clarify, it does require a majority in favor, so it's not the plurality. It's 4, 2, and 1, but
Have 5 votes for one of the candidates.
majority of the board is in favor of Diana Johnson. Therefore, do I hear a motion? So move to appoint Diana Johnson to the vacant seat on the board. So moved by Craig. Is there a second? Seconded by Lori. Call vote, please.
Tony Arnett,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Howard,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Mill,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes. Thank you to all who applied and gave your time this evening to speak with the board. I hope you will actually have some encouragement and will continue to pursue the process.
And Diana, we will be in contact with you to take your oath of office and take the next steps.
All right, this brings us to our last item under strategic discussion, which is our Safe Schools update.
This week or I guess last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever we had that services, we talked about the Safe Schools update and the fact that we were going to have this be a very, very, very brief report. That there is not much new to report other than good news. And as we move forward, perhaps we don't need to continue to have this particular item on every agenda. So the Ed Services Committee discussed that, but thought we should at least have this evening to put that before you. So the Safe Schools update is good news. We continue to maintain really great low numbers in our schools. 1, 2, this past week, 3 cases over the course of those weeks. And we continue to maintain higher attendance for both staff and for students. So we feel very good about that trend, and we are very hopeful that we will continue to see that trend moving forward. That is my Safe Schools update, unless there are any questions about that.
share?
I am positive. I was told by David Trader I had 30 seconds, so I did not want to exceed my time.
Did I say that?
You might have said 10. I think I expanded it to 30.
But you took 60.
Comments or questions from board members? So reflecting on feedback from the community, I think it would behoove us to tell people in advance when we might see a number of other conditions have been in place, drop off.
I agree.
Sooner we can cast that, better.
And we had conversation at Ed Services that we certainly anticipate summer school and the beginning of next school year looking very much like we would anticipate the beginning of any school year and the beginning of any summer school programming. And we can continue to have additional discussion about that as well at the upcoming Ed Services meeting.
Tony, the discussion at services was also, is there a better way to do our quote unquote safe schools policy? It's more robust, less COVID specific. And how much resources could staff put towards that, let's say during the summer? We've been given examples, whether it be from, board members or community members pointing out, I'm not saying that ours needs to be improved, can't exist as it is, or can't just be set aside. But I didn't know where we get the direction and the priority to make sure that we have something that the school staff as well as the board is comfortable with going forward, if we're not happy with the current one, or if we just set it aside entirely and then bring it back should we need one. Didn't know what you thought about putting the resources towards that, but that was a discussion at ESC.
Might I suggest that the board actually look at perhaps as soon as summer school, we remove the current policy and revert to our existing communicable diseases policy. And instead, the question isn't how do we change this, what I call the safe schools stuff. Instead, the question is, do we need to make any changes to our existing communicable disease policy?
Yes.
That's your new starting point. The
Right.
starting point isn't what we've been doing. The starting point is what's our base policy that we've always had.
Is
And
that-
do we need to make any adjustments to that?
Does that fall under policy then?
I think that would best be handled through policy. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That's just my suggestion to you all.
I would support that.
Any other comments or questions on that topic? Okay, then our next item up is the superintendent's report.
All right. Very briefly as well. However, we are very excited to begin our process for again selecting a distinguished alumni recipient. I encourage you, should you know someone who is deserving of this honor, to go onto the district website where you're able to nominate someone. You can see here our nominees of the past. We do still have a robust pool of candidates, but we are always looking for new entries into that candidate pool. And again, making sure that that recognition is bestowed on someone who is truly deserving. We have had extraordinary distinguished alumni in the past, and we fully expect to be able to recognize another just extraordinary alumni at our June board meeting, which is when we typically do that. So that process is concluded in May. So get those nominations in. Thank you. Children's Day Fair. First of all, I have to give a huge shout out to Jamie Rosenau, who has done an extraordinary job of bringing back Children's Day Fair. We have missed Children's Day Fair for the past 2 years, and this year it was fantastically well attended. If you haven't been to this event, please put it on your calendar for next April. It is an absolutely wonderful event where we bring in all sorts of community resources and supports for children. We invite all of our community members to attend, as well as children in surrounding communities. It is a wonderful day full of wonderful activities, and it also is a child find activity for us, an opportunity for us to know the children who are in our community, who maybe are not familiar to us, encourage them to consider the educational opportunities here in the district, and also to ensure that if they have needs that we need to be meeting, that we are doing that as well. So wonderful event, and truly, Jamie, I don't know how many hours she put into coordinating that, along with many other wonderful people who were at the event this weekend and coordinating those details. A huge thank you to making that happen. She got beat the cat. Oh, you're welcome. It was super fun. It was great. This is an example of some of the fantastic recent outreach that's happening in eCampus. Dr. Vitale is doing an amazing job of doing really extraordinary outreach efforts to students in Portugal that we are anticipating coming through our program, as well as now working with students in Japan, and most recently, students in Ukraine. All of those students are coming in through our Career Pathways program with the opportunity to earn a diploma from their country of residence and paying tuition towards the WUSD to help support those efforts. It is a fantastic win-win situation all the way around, and Dr. Vitale has really reached out and created some amazing partnerships that we are so happy to have and so happy to bring the fantastic level of education that we have available here on campus to those students and families, and provide a pathway for post-secondary for them here in the States as well. We had all sorts of celebrations in the month of April. April is a big celebration month in education, and one of those was National Volunteer Week. So if you know a volunteer, it's not too late to go back and say thank you. Here in the WUSD, we have the very finest volunteers around. So we used that time to celebrate some of the great work that is happening there in our classrooms and to support our students in learning. We are very, very, very happy to report that testing is over. We have been working very hard in our schools to administer our spring testing window. And we are happy with the work that has been happening in our classrooms to support that really important work, which was discussed tonight. We know standardized tests certainly tell far from the whole story, but they are an important data point, and they certainly factor into our state report card. And we appreciate all the efforts of our students, our teachers, our administrators in executing those very important tests. Congratulations. Looking kind of into the light here. Congratulations to the Skills USA chapter display team who received first place at state. As we know, our Skills USA team every single year has extraordinary finishes at state and also extraordinary finishes at the national level. We are very proud of the work that they have done. And as we already acknowledged, again, a NOM winner for our Best Community of Music. And as I also already mentioned, we have the Spotlight Tour featuring Mark Wood coming up. Get your tickets. It's May 14th, featuring the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Mark Wood, I mean, really, really, really extraordinary. If you haven't been to one of these performances in the past, it is so cool. It is so cool. And my reluctant orchestra student is very excited to be working with Mark Wood. We had National Associate Principal Week, we had Paraprofessional Appreciation Day, and School Librarian Appreciation Day. Again, April's a big month. Reach out to these people, say thank you, thank you, thank you. We have some of the finest around, and get ready to celebrate because May is going to be Teacher Appreciation Week. That is next week. Let's make sure we make it a really, really special day or week for our staff. And that is my report.
Thank you. Comments or questions on that report? All right, Board of Canvassers. The Board of Canvassers met on April 11th. We reviewed all the detailed ballot outputs from the voting districts, tallied them up, make sure that our tallies match their tallies, and you see the report attached, and we will have a resolution recognizing that result. Any comments or questions on that report?
Those that did it.
Please.
Thank you for those that did it.
Fiscal management.
At a meeting April 20th, all board, all committee members were present, and as long as myself, Bill Surdick, our supervisor of buildings and grounds, and Sheila Price, our supervisor of nutrition services. The payment report, we discussed payments above $10,000. Specifically, I addressed a payment of $98,000 for the purchase of 400 Chromebooks from Vanguard Computers. I acknowledge that this purchase really should have gone to the board for approval, and whether that has been the precedent for ongoing student device replacement. The fiscal committee recommended still bringing forward the purchase for board approval to align with board policy. So that's why you see that action item tonight in the resolution. And then in addition to that, I'm working with Stacy to determine how to better kind of align the checklisting with some additional information, funds and things like that, that can be a little easier to read. On the variance report, we're still on track. We have budgeted a $3.5 million allocation towards fund balance. We still should be around that number. And really that's just helping to defer future deficits as we move into 23-24 school year. It was asked whether we've seen evidence of inflation. We have, specifically in utilities and paper items, but really, really as we're a service-based industry, the new contracts, we're going to be able to see evidence of inflation there probably the most. We talked about the gym floor replacement. We accepted, we went out to competitive bid to replace the gym floor at RMS. We've got some pictures in the board packet for tonight. Really past its useful life. The vendor that usually performs the yearly service on it is like, they are uncomfortable touching that anymore. And so it became somewhat of a safety concern for Bill and I. So we went out to bid. And we determined at the meeting itself that given the feedback on the 3 different proposals, that Bill and I would take the feedback from fiscal, come back with our suggestion on who to approve for that. And yes, we can talk about that when the resolution comes up. Brought forward a second greenhouse at the high school. This is out of the agriculture department. It's going to be a combination of funds that have been donated as well as district funds. It appears the majority will be donated funds. The district fund portion will not be above 20,000. My question to the committee was really what if the entire project was over 20, but not majority donated funds, do we still want that to go forward? The committee determined periodic updates provided through the superintendent report would be the best way to kind of give us ongoing an ongoing report on how that is shaping up. So with that, we will be doing the majority of that work over the summer and possibly getting that ready for kids to work on come the fall when they return. I simply read the description for the community, the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation grant, and that grant will be used to fund summer school curriculum, and that's in the resolution tonight. And then finally, we spent some time with Sheila talking about the current state of food service programs, and then specifically the current financials. Over the next year or so, we actually have to draw down fund balance in food service per state request. And so the committee provided feedback on the current food service program and kind of guidelines to think about as the funds are expended. Next meeting is May 18th.
Comments or questions in that? There are several resolutions coming out of that, and you can also ask comments or questions at that time on those specific items. All right, thank you. Human Resources.
Yeah, so April was a busy month for the Human Resources Committee. We had 2 meetings last week. The first meeting, we reviewed the consent agenda, which is in a resolution in your on the board's agenda this evening. That's a review of the staff appointments, the resignations and terminations. We also have had our initial list of summer school contracts to be issued for this summer's summer school. There's a resolution for those contracts also on tonight's board agenda. The committee had a discussion about a compassionate leave idea, wherein we would be looking at expanding our leave policies to include situations where an employee has a catastrophic illness or injury of a family member. So that is a work in progress, and I will be bringing draft ideas to the next month's HR committee to further discuss and explore that idea and see where we go from there next month. We did go into closed session to discuss two individual situations, one a retirement and another one an extended leave of absence. We made no decisions while we were in closed session. We resumed open session and we adjourned our meeting. Our next meeting was on April 21st, Thursday. We had two agenda items for that meeting. The first was a review of the finalist presentations for the superintendent search firm. We had two vendors come in and do presentations, HYA Associates and McPherson and Jacobson both presented and had some discussion with the individuals present, the committee members and other interested board members. The committee recommended a resolution to retain HYA Associates for the superintendent search, and that is also a resolution on tonight's board agenda. And we went into closed session for first discussion of the 2022-23 staffing plan. No decisions were made in that closed session. We reconvened to open session and we reviewed the teacher staff contracts, which are also on a resolution for your consideration this evening. We concluded the April 21st meeting, and our next meeting will be, it says Thursday, but really it will be Monday, May 16th at 5:30 p.m.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions in that report?
I don't believe the second, oh, it is not.
It's down a little bit.
It's not up
Not,
in the reports, second.
All right,
Committee meeting is not in there.
educational services.
Yeah.
So.
I think
Dr. Vitale's on.
Dr. Vitale's on.
Yeah, I can take this. We met April 12th and discussed briefly the safety plan updates. There was a presentation on a K-12 math program research and review process whereby a team would convene in the 2022-2023 school year to research mathematics instruction and curriculum and with the idea of adopting or proposing an adoption for the 2023-2024 school year. Process very similar to the recent Riverside Middle School English Language Arts process that was recently approved by the board. We were joined by representatives from Vendy Advertising. They shared deliverables on a prospective eCampus ad campaign. What came out of that was an effort to gain a better sense of the market conditions, specifically student enrollments and the market size, as well as the competitive landscape before the board would decide to move forward with the potential ad campaign. So that's the next step. And then Aaron Meyer and Jenny Borst shared a teaching and learning update. One item was the math research study. There were other aspects to that as well that they can expound upon should they choose to do so now. Otherwise, that's the report, and we meet again on May 10th.
Comments or questions from the board?
Just, and I volunteered to be the board member on the math research study, but looking at a resume of a new board member with 21 years of math experience, I will withdraw my name.
She says she raises her hand.
Don't put it in the resume if it's not true.
Anything else? This brings us to our consent agenda, resolution 9098. The consent agenda includes board meeting minutes and committee summaries, personnel, staffing, that's resignations, retirements, and hiring decisions, as well as the approval of bills, the first reading and second reading of policies. Please note there are no first reading policies this evening, but there are a number of second reading policies. Do I hear a motion on resolution 9098?
So moved.
Moved by Doug, is there a second? Second by Tina. Comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson, yes, David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Abstain.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Roberts.
Yes. And the motion carries. This then takes us to our action items. First up, resolution 9099. First of all, many for summer school staff. Do I hear a motion on resolution 9099? Moved by Tina, is there a second?
Second.
Dave Smith?
Yep.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Abstain.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Roberts.
Yes. And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9100, which is the report from Board of Canvassers and certificate of determination of persons elected. Do I hear a motion on 9100?
So moved. Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Doug.
Dave, not me first.
Okay. Dave. Thank you. Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Roberts.
Yes. And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9101, special education policies and procedures. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Doug, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. This is an annual affair of bringing our special education policies and procedures in line with any changes that occur at the state level. Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Roberts.
Yes. And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9102, which is our lease with Madison College to have space for the Discovery Academy. Do I hear a motion on 9102?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Craig, seconded by Doug. Comments or questions on the motion?
Any substantial changes to the lease? From the committee at all?
Over now. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then a roll call vote on this, please.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Roberts.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9103, Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation Summer School Curriculum Grant. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Tina, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by David. Comments or questions on the motion?
Just that, first of all, we are very grateful, as always, to the Watertown Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation for their ongoing support for so many of our programs. in the past. They have supported Bell Excel curriculum for us during summer school. We did not experience the same level of success this past summer as we did the previous summer. Therefore, we've made some modifications to the curriculum accordingly that we think we will experience some better success with. And we are very grateful again to the Foundation's financial support for those efforts.
Any other comments or questions on that? If not, roll call vote, please.
Tony Arnett,
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Lori Helen,
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Lowe,
Yes.
Craig Warren.
Yes. And the motion carries. Resolution 9104, 2022-2023 certified staff contracts. Do I hear a motion? Moved by Tina,
Second.
seconded by Lori. Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Arnett,
Yes.
Mike Higgins.
Yes.
Lori Helen,
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Lowe,
Yes.
Craig Warren.
Abstain.
Right. Next is resolution 9105, which is the approval of the Germany trip that was described to us earlier in the meeting. Is there a motion on 9105? Second. Moved by Lori, seconded by Mike. Comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is resolution 9106 for purchase of Chromebooks. Do I hear a motion on this?
I move to table.
I second.
There's a motion to table. If not subject to discussion, could I have a roll call vote on that, please?
Tony Arnett,
No.
Mike Higgins,
No.
Lori Helen,
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
No.
David Schrader,
No.
David Smith,
No.
Doug Lowe,
No.
Craig Warren.
Yes.
Motion to table fails. Do I hear a motion on resolution 9106?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Doug, seconded by Dave. Discussion on the motion. Please, Craig.
So as was discussed in the fiscal report, that it is my understanding that this was a violation of the 3300 series of the policy that indicates that purchases of over $20,000 should come before the board for approval. I think that this vote or approval that is being sought retroactively, it's a violation of the spirit of the policy. Procedurally, I'm not sure that I can legally vote for an action that has already happened. And I think that if an up or down vote were to take place on this resolution, I would have to vote no, because I view that a vote in support of this resolution is a vote in support of the violation of the 3300 policy series. My question would be, what happens if this resolution fails? Then what? Is this an effort to coerce the board into support of a resolution that really should or should not happen? I question the legality there. I am assuming that there is a reason for the 3300 series of policies. One of the things that I see is, as a board member, if a referendum comes before us at some point where we have to discuss this with the community and I have to look somebody square in the eye, I have to actually be very frank that I did everything I possibly could to be fiscally responsible. I feel like the discussion needs to happen in front of the board as the policy indicates. If the referendum were to fail, I have to explain to those, another set of stakeholders, look them in the eye and explain why cuts are going to be necessary. So I feel that this should be tabled so that a deeper conversation or deeper discussion can be had. And I want to leave it at that.
So a few thoughts that I have. First, disappointment isn't the right word for how this went down. The level of expenditure by itself should have gone. This shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. And that's in the way it was handled. And there's a process we're working through. Any actions need to be taken as a result of that. Second thought is this would appear to call attention to flaws in our process as a district that need to be addressed. I believe I heard that spoken to a little bit earlier, and I look forward to hearing about what changes will be made to prevent this kind of thing from happening again. And thirdly, I would say that if the board disagrees with this expenditure, then vote it down. Now these things are expected sitting on a ship somewhere. And I'm sure there are options. So if we do not wish to proceed with this specific purchase for the reason of the purchase, then by all means, the board should consider that course of action. However, if you think that the purchase is the right thing to do in terms of what it's being spent on, then what we need to ask for as a board is the accountability for how this came about this way and what's going to change in the future to prevent it from happening again. Those are my
I appreciate Tony, how you segregate that. There's two distinct things here. It's the purchase, not the purchase that should be made. That's what the motion before us today is for. It should this purchase be approved by the board as a legitimate purchase. Then there is the separate, to me, procedural that this shouldn't have happened. Should have happened if it came up at fiscal, and like I said, it needs to go to the board to at least get the purchase approved with it. If yes, there is the question of how did this happen and what are we going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? It needs to take place, but those are to me are two separate.
I guess I'm not necessarily questioning the need for Chromebooks. I think that there is a valid discussion to be had there. But again, it just doesn't seem like this comes through in a good faith effort. I struggle with that because at the end of the day, I think there is a need. I guess my question would be, was there some sort of an emergency here? I mean, Are we in possession of these Chromebooks?
Yes,
So we already have them.
yes.
Still deal with it.
Dr. Vitale is on the call, could address the need if that's a desire of the board to hear the need for the Chromebooks.
I can, yeah, I can speak if I understood, Craig, I believe it was Craig's question about the need and so forth. These are Chromebooks that are on a replacement cycle. They're actually replacing 2015 and 2016 models that are currently in circulation across several of our schools. And they're at what it's called end of life. And that just means that the Chrome operating system updates no longer take place, creates security patch problems, security problems for systems that aren't updated, as well as performance and feature improvements that no longer take place. So the functionality of the systems after 6 or 7 years drops off considerably. And so, and the students, of course, with our quarantines and our, more digital learning taking place, they take their systems home. After several years, they do, they do wear out somewhat. And so this order of 400 Chromebooks would replace 400 systems. As I mentioned before, they're Acer C740s. If you want to know, I have a spreadsheet I can share and I've shared with Mr. Williamson. But it's a process that we follow every year, and we certainly apologize for the oversight. There was no malice here, no intent to deceive or misuse funds. They're going to our kids and our families, and I know that our feedback, for example, in our ESSER surveys and so forth, continue to indicate a need for improved technology or updated technology. And, it's a hard thing to stay on top of because we know that this obsolescence can come by fairly quickly in terms of updates and so forth. So there's nothing else I can say unless you have questions. We will certainly be bringing more Chromebook requests to you, and we will follow the policy. And again, we apologize for the oversight.
You're trying to speak.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I trust the fiscal committee that they vetted through that process and that, it's two separate things.
There was one comment, ESSER funds, is this where this is being applied, or is this being
No, this was.
part of
with-
budget?
Yeah,
What-
within the
So you
technology
could
budget.
explain that.
Yeah, it's not ESSER funds, it's
Okay.
within the
It's in the budget already.
allocated budget.
Was there a reason we went with one price other than the other?
Yeah, my understanding is Vanguard was able to actually guarantee delivery, big part. The Vanguard technology, HP has had better success as far as holding up over time, thanks Tyler, than over the Dells. And then the screen quality on the HPs, easier on the kids' eyes, better quality there too. So I really think the multiple quotes was to make sure that Vanguard wasn't out of line more than anything else. So at $1,500, that's not
No.
given the quality there.
I was just curious.
Yeah, thanks.
There are concerns about, supply pipeline issues, and one silver lining of this could be, in recent weeks or upcoming weeks, I should say, the cost of systems with chip shortages is a bona fide reality. So we're just grateful we have the systems. And again, we'll certainly remain reticent to policy moving forward, and thought we were in this case, but obviously, things fell through. So.
Any other comments or questions on the motion? Craig?
Yeah, noticing the discussion that's here tonight, my intention was to move closer to a better understanding of this, and I will support the resolution as going forward, but because I feel our kids need the Chromebooks. Not how the policy was necessarily handled.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the motion? On 9106. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Hannah,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9107. RMS gym floor installation. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
By David, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Doug. Comments or questions on the resolution? Seeing we did have 2 quotes on this. Craig, please.
So I noticed that there's no, dollar amount that is included in the resolution itself. Is that a discussion that we should be allowing for our fiscal committee to potentially make a decision for like a not to exceed amount, or is it something that there's just no checkbook for?
Good question. I believe the intent was to allow for the possibility of looking at several additional optional aspects of the bid. but maybe
Well, in this, yeah, I'll speak to it. In this case, basement flooring came out. You can look at the 3 quotes from the fiscal meeting last Wednesday. They're there. We would follow the basement flooring, not, there's a couple basements. We go with basement flooring at the 115 number compared to Basement Brothers at 142 and Schmidt at 180. Really, the discussion that occurred at fiscal was we needed to determine whether we needed to actually fix the floor or whether it would be floating. And basement flooring suggested the floating, and that's what we are going with here because the timing of the installation being in August, it's going to be the most what's that?
Hot and humid?
A lot of humidity. Yeah, a lot of humidity in that gym. The wood is going to already be expanded. And so basement flooring, knowing that there's no air in there for the moment, is going to put in the appropriate joints, put in the appropriate beads around each of the flooring boards in order to allow for expansion and shifting to occur, and you won't get that buckling. So really it's a timing of it. In connecting with basement flooring, they certainly could fix it, but that's not their suggestion here. And so at $27,000 difference or so, felt comfortable going ahead with Basement Brothers on this. And it's the same company that installed the flooring at the high school as well. And we've had beautiful floor and had success there. So that's where this came. That's what it came down to after Wednesday.
I agree with Craig. That to me, at least makes sense to have a not to exceed. Even if we know there's a possibility that it may be option A or option B, then let's put the higher of the 2. And so we have a not to exceed that makes sense.
No, I would say let's go, if you want to amend the motion. Say, let's go with I'm just pulling it up now. The Basement Brothers quote at a cost not to exceed.
So we're going with basement.
Basement
Gave us one-
floors.
Don't say that.
Basement floor,
There you go.
which was
And
one,
others that
which
have-
only gave us one option without the
Correct.
add-on, but you're thinking you want the add-on or you don't? Because that was the confusion, is you thought you may want to mix the add-on from one and get,
No, we're going with the Basement Brothers at the 113.
the basement.
I mean basement floors. You guys stop. Basement floors.
He said
Floors,
brothers.
floors,
Right.
floors at a cost not to exceed 113, 120.
As quoted, basically.
Yes, so basement floors didn't have a lot of extra. It's
there was-
Basement Brothers who had all this extra, and we're like, no, we don't need all that. We need basement floors at the 113,
As quoted.
120, as quoted.
And I would just say that as a point of process on this particular piece, we do typically approve whatever has happened at the committee level in terms of going into a contract with someone, allowing for perhaps some detailing of that contract later on. So a do not exceed is certainly appropriate, but it would not be at all unusual to see a resolution without a final dollar amount, because frequently we are still working on some of those details, usually in hopes that that'll come down over the long haul. But a do not exceed, again, and this makes a ton of sense, but just as it would not be unusual to see a resolution come before you without a specific dollar amount, but with an agreement to move going into bids or agreements with a particular company.
So can we make a motion to amend this resolution?
Well, David, would you accept the not to exceed of 113, 120 as a friendly amendment?
I will.
And Doug, would you accept that as a second? That friendly amendment. Any other comments or questions on this?
I just add from a funding piece, with it happening in August, the intention was certainly a fund. So we have Fund 46, which is additional dollars set aside for capital improvement plans. There's about 1.6 in there. This would be a great expenditure to take out of that, given it's a 40 to 50, 60-year purchase. A nice way to use funds have been set aside. However, we are still piecing together the budget for next year, and if it can fit within normal operations, we'll certainly do that. So we have multiple funding ways to do it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Will
please.
this change since, do we know how old that floor is?
It's original to
The original. So I know we have a lot of recreational come into the middle school. Is that going to, are we going to be changing any of that? I know it's really nice, but I'm
Yeah.
just want,
Yeah.
some of them may need a heads up if that's going to affect.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Does that make
Yes,
sense?
we're communicating, with especially. the
I know there's
principal.
baseball and there's
Yeah.
some adult things I think that
Yeah.
are in there. I just didn't know if
Yes.
we're going to have to.
It's gonna be early August, probably that first week.
But I mean, what about in the future? Like, is there gonna be, because this is gonna be a new floor, are we gonna
She
want to
said
restrict some of that?
Oh.
Limited use of.
I'm not saying
I
we
would
should
never
or
take
shouldn't.
it
I'm
down.
just wondering.
No. No, I don't,
You want to
no,
cancel David's ballot?
No, I don't, but I just think that,
I'm not dancing on it with my.
I know that there's youth baseball in there and I know there's things going on, which is great,
Yeah.
but that may affect
Yeah,
some.
I mean, it's meant to take on the wear and tear. I mean, when we're looking at a floor that's 50+ years old now, I'll certainly talk with basement flooring and determine.
I'm not saying not do it. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, but
This
that-
is something to
More, I
think
think it's a
about.
valid point.
Yeah,
I mean, They get used for a bunch of different things.
and
as
it's
long
kind of
as
dependent on.
appropriate in the shoes that they wear and the purpose of it is appropriate for a floor. There's no point in damaging a new asset by letting them run in there with,
Right.
skateboards or
Or
those
cleats.
boogie boards or cleats or
Baseball.
what have you. Yeah, I don't know what it all gets used for, but it's a valid question. And
I'll take that back.
basement flooring.
Is basement flooring and basement builders the same or are they separate?
They are not the same.
Okay. I just wanted to put that out. I was like,
They are
am I getting,
Yeah.
seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes. It's the same.
Family divided.
Same situation.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Tony Yurda,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holly,
Yes.
Tina Johnson. Yes. David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Borman.
Yes.
And the motion carries. And our last resolution, 9108, is the selection of a superintendent search firm. As previously described, the HR committee is recommending HYA. Do I hear a motion on 9108?
So moved.
Moved by Mike. Is there a second? Second by Tina. I would just say that assuming the board is going to vote in favor of this, that we will then contact them right away and I will report back to you on as specific of a date and dates as we can get you. They did, of course, in their proposal, detail out what they thought the process would look like, step by step, but it was all subject to the start date. So if the board proceeds with this, then Margaret, I will, Margaret will contact them, we will move forward, and we will report back as quickly to you and to the community at large. That's what this process will look like.
Tony, quick question. Thanks for all those who participated in the HR meetings, Margaret, Tony, and those who led it. High level, Margaret or Tony, the 2 or 3 things that set this entity apart from the other ones that were reviewed, just high level stuff.
So this is one of the most active firms doing these kinds of searches in this area of Wisconsin. And so they have both familiarity with the area and familiarity with candidates. And yet they also have a national reach and highlighted their ability to pull in from neighboring states. I believe those present, there was you're hiring a recruiter, right? There's a comfort level you're looking that they seem to get what you're about. And that's, I think, the number one thing. Like they HWA got what we're about.
Okay. No, good.
And so therefore we felt more confidence and then going out and finding candidates that are gonna meet that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Abbott,
Yes.
Mike Higgins,
Yes.
Lori Holland,
Yes.
Tina Johnson.
Yes.
David Schrader,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Doug Will,
Yes.
Craig Borman.
Yes.
And the motion carries. This brings us to the second opportunity in the agenda for public comment. Anyone present in the room or online, again, raise your hand. And I see one online, so we will go ahead and start there. Tracy Finch. Right, in just a moment.
Hello.
You're on, thank you.
Okay. Tracy Finch, West Main Street, Watertown, Wisconsin. I would highly recommend you keep the safety protocols into place, not just for COVID, but as well as for influenza and other contagious illnesses. Even colds can be contagious if you're within a distance of a person, especially if they cough. Keep with the healthy habits of good hygienes, routines, hand sanitizing areas, especially before eating and after visiting the bathroom. Don't get rid of giving children and staff the option of wearing a face mask. If you fully get rid of face masking, you will see more children getting sick. My daughter has had the best 2 years of her education by only missing 1 day of school in the past 2 years of this pandemic, or whatever you want to call it. With COVID and influenza, get yourself a mitigation guidelines where you have metrics as in numbers. If there's COVID and even influenza with a case-by-case transmission in a classroom, have masks required within the classroom. Multiple case-to-case transmission in a grade level or across the grade levels, then temporary masking required within the school. If there's a 7-day average of positive cases with either of those two, if a school has a certain number or higher school-wide, temporary masking. Like I have mentioned many times, masks are not bad, but helpful in so many ways, though it's the person who makes them to be a bad thing. COVID is not going away. It's just temporary at low, just like the same for influenza and other things. Then, though COVID is more contagious and can be deadlier than influenza, and I sure do not want to see any children or even adults dying or having lifetime complications from this. With having mitigation guidelines into safety protocols, you will have less teachers thinking of quitting their jobs. I don't want to see teachers being pulled left or right to different classrooms or other areas when they are prepped for their own classroom, not someone else's, just so that way a class or grade level doesn't have to go virtual. I have already heard of many teachers on the verge of quitting because of being pulled in many different ways. So I ask you to keep WSD safety protocols, and for goodness sake, put in some mitigation guidelines for COVID and even influenza, since both are similar but have seen And for those who know, COVID can be more dangerous. It's just a safety protocol that if you get rid of this, you're going to see things back in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Do not see anyone else online. I do not see anyone in the room here. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Doug. Is there a second? Second. Second by Tina. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand